Hello, my name is Raufikat Oyawoye-Salami. I am originally from Nigeria but now live in Milton, Ontario, Canada, and I am a home baker. I was inspired to be a baker by my mom. She used to allow us to help her out whenever she was making something in the kitchen, and we were able to help her with mixing things and arranging things on maybe cakes and cookies and things like that, and it inspired me to want to do it on my own. So when I was in university, I started baking on my own, and I haven't stopped baking since then. So most of the things I make lots of cakes and cookies and pastries. Those are my favorite things to eat, and I also like experimenting with fine French pastries and such things as well. One of the things I used to have as a child that I still enjoy making now are meat pies. They hold a very special memory for me because we used to have them on road trips. For instance, whenever we were going on a road trip, there was a particular stop halfway where we would stop and get some meat pies and soft drinks for the rest of the trip. And being able to make them for myself is a very special thing that I really enjoy doing. So a meat pie is basically a handheld flaky pastry filled with seasoned meat and vegetables, and it's really good, and it holds a lot of special memories for me, and I enjoy making it now for myself and for my family. There are lots of people in the baking space that inspire me, too many to name, and Olsen being one of them, also Nadia Hussein. There are so many bakers that inspire me to want to be like them and try to challenge myself and become more than I already do when I bake. So my biggest achievement as a baker was auditioning for and being selected to be on, and then finally winning season 4 of the Great Canadian Baking Show in 2020. That was one of my biggest achievements as a baker, and it kind of validated for me that baking is something that I actually do know how to do. So I encourage anyone that has any such passion to pursue it and stick with it. Don't give up, and always challenge yourself. I feel like if you challenge yourself, the only thing you can do is if you fail, you learn from the failure, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I enjoy baking and cooking because I feel like food is a love language. It's a way of showing someone that you care. As a matter of fact, it's jokingly said that in Nigeria, when somebody asks, "Have you eaten?" it's their way of saying, "I love you." So I really enjoy cooking and baking for my family, for my friends, sharing things I've made with them, and knowing that this thing that I've made it's able to give pleasure to someone is just a feeling that I really enjoy. So there are some dishes that I'm hoping to be able to make. I have not been able to make a successful baguette, but I'm hoping one day to be able to build up the courage to try to make a successful one. But for the meantime, I'm just trying my hand out at really complicated multi-element French pastries, desserts that have different layers and textures and flavors to them that require planning and putting different flavors together. So those are the things I'm working on currently. During the pandemic, I've just been staying on top of what's going on in the culinary baking world, following lots of accounts with interesting ideas, trying to see which one of those I can recreate in my home kitchen, and basically just perfecting the things I already know how to do and trying my hand out at new things. So my biggest baking tip, if you are starting out as a baker or you want to get into baking, is the very first time you try something, don't make any changes. Baking is very finicky, it can be quite demanding, and it really does require you to know what each ingredient does before you start changing it. So I would advise that when you're making a baking recipe for the first time, don't make any changes, bake it as is, and then after you taste it and you see how it comes out, you can now evaluate what each ingredient does and how you would like to substitute it. So for instance, you might feel like you wanted it to be a little lighter, it wasn't light enough, it was too dense, and you might decide to add a little bit more baking powder to it. Or you felt like maybe the flavor was a bit flat, you might want to increase the amount of salt in it or something like that. So when you are baking, stick with the recipe for the first time until you are sure of what each ingredient does. It's been really lovely talking to you. Thank you very much for listening and enjoy the rest of the expo.